and running. This is a good sight to see around the NFL. 11 teams beginning their OTA programs today. The Chiefs back in action. Veteran Chris Jones you just saw. And how about Kenneth Walker, their new running back, in the house, and his former team, the defending Super Bowl champion Seahawks. They kick off OTAs with their new running back rookie Jadarian Price. Another rookie to watch that you'll see in just moments as we're flying around to all the OTAs that are happening today. How about Eagles wide receiver Mekhi Lemon? Look at him out there. Of course, they made him a priority. They wanted to get him, and they've got him. He already looks good. I realize people are in shorts. It's not real, but it looks real enough for me to say he looks good. Okay, Baker Mayfield is in action today for the Bucs as OTAs get underway in Tampa. What will his team look like? They've got some changes offensively, of course, and a lot to get into. The Colts, Jags, Chiefs, Chargers, Eagles, Packers, Vikings, Panthers, Bucs, Rams, Seahawks, they are all in OTAs today. As we welcome you into the show, so glad that you're here today. We got Jeopardy champion Mina Kimes over here, Dan Orlovsky.
Oh, congrats on that. Well done.
We haven't had an official in-person congrats.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're in New York today. Busy week ahead for Mina. Sports Emmys tonight, as well as hosting the Scripps National Spelling Bee in the next 2 days. Let's go, Mina.
Maybe you can teach me a thing or two about hosting before then.
I will teach you a thing or two about spelling, actually. No, I'm kidding. Dan will. Okay.
We may have had a spelling bee before. And
tune in to everything on Mina's social media to find out more on our spelling bee and to find out who won between me and Dan.
Or don't. Yeah.
Okay. One of those 11 teams opening up OTAs today, as we mentioned, the Chiefs. And for more out of Kansas City, we welcome in our Chiefs reporter, Nate Taylor. Nate, what is the latest on quarterback Patrick Mahomes for the Chiefs as he recovers from his late season ACL tear?
Yes, Laura, today is the first day that Patrick Mahomes is back on a football field with his teammates, and he did participate in some form and fashion, I was told today, during the Chiefs' opening OTA practice. This has been one of the more important dates of the Chiefs' offseason, with Patrick Mahomes obviously recovering and rehabbing from his torn ACL and LCL in his left knee. You know, what's interesting here, Laura, is we will see Patrick Mahomes for our own self on Thursday, the Chiefs' final OTA practice of this week. And what's fascinating about this is both the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes have not put out much video of his workout, of his training, obviously of his rehab. So what we see on Thursday will be the first real indication of just how much progress Patrick has made from the December 14th injury to now for the OTAs, for the Chiefs. And another thing to add, Laura, is the Chiefs have very good attendance for this first OTA practice. We saw Kenneth Walker, as you mentioned earlier, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce. All the Chiefs' most notable players are here this week, and with Patrick Mahomes back on the field throwing the football to his teammates, it's another positive sign in his progress to be available and ready for the opening night game here at Arrowhead Stadium on September 14th against the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, can't wait for that on Monday Night Football. And I don't know, I realize Patrick Mahomes may be superhuman in some ways, but it does feel like it's earlier than we thought we might see him out there doing real football activity. Thanks so much to Nate. Mahomes injured his left knee late in a December 14th loss to the Chargers and had surgery the following night in Dallas. The Chiefs, as you heard Nate mention, opening their 2026 season September 14th. It's just not that far away. Monday Night Football against the Broncos. That is exactly 9 months after the torn ACL ended his season. Dan, Mahomes out there today with the team. We don't know exactly what he was doing, but any concerns that he's coming back too soon?
No, I would say it's one of the great storylines of the NFL so far this offseason. I mean, this guy's the face of the league, certainly the face of the Chiefs. So it's great for the Chiefs. It's great for the NFL that he's out there. I'm not concerned about him or them pushing him too much too early. I think he's one of the 0.001%ers in the world. His body athletically is just different. He'll be smart, they'll be smart, but the fact that he's sniffing in some capacity being out there today is great for everybody.
I'm a lot less concerned about Patrick Mahomes' health. He knows his body, and obviously he's been very good at recovering from injury in the past, than I am about the Chiefs receiving group and who he's going to be throwing to.
Yeah.
I was just looking at this last year. Outside of Travis Kelce, there wasn't a single Chiefs receiver who had more than 50 catches other than Rashee Rice, who played 8 games.
Yeah.
Now, Rice, obviously there's question marks around his own availability with some of his off-the-field activities. And other than that, they're really running it back. And I understand that they invested heavily in the run game, and that was their priority, and I liked that priority, and I think that'll help the passing game as well. But boy,
if their run game doesn't click.
If that run game doesn't click, as much as we were critical of the Chiefs' offense last year,
Sure.
there's little reason to think it'll be better.
Yeah, so there's that aspect of it. There's also the fact that we don't know exactly how healthy Patrick Mahomes will be. So maybe the offense struggles a little bit early on. I don't want to make a prediction here, but if that's the case, Can the defense kind of hold it together? Are they set up in a way to sort of remain in a good spot while they wait for Mahomes to get back to form?
Well, I'll start by saying I like a lot of what they did on defense, particularly up front. That was clearly a priority in the draft with drafting both Peter Woods, the defensive tackle out of Clemson, as well as R. Mason Thomas to give you some speed. Because last season, outside of Chris Jones, nobody on the Chiefs ranked in the top 30 in pressure rate, pass rush win, or get off. So that was obviously an area of need, especially as the blitzes were increasingly less effective as the year went on. I also like what they did on the back end, drafting Mansour Delane. I think moving Shamari Connor back to safety will help. So I like all of that. My only question is, it's a lot of youth.
Yeah.
And if we're asking, can they hold up, compensate for the defense early on or the offense early on? I think this is a defense, Dan, that might be better at the end of the season than they are at the beginning.
We don't know if they did enough. I mean, those 4 rookies are going to play significantly meaningful snaps. If we can fast forward and they drafted the way the Browns drafted defensively last year, or like the Ravens did, because they were the only team in the NFL to use their first 4 picks on defensive players, screaming that they needed help. Obviously, if you go back to last year's Browns draft, it was phenomenal. Look at the bottom of the screen. The Ravens were second in the NFL in snaps by rookies on defense. A big deal. And so I think if those rookies pan out to be great players, I agree. One of my notes is it's a very different defense potentially in November than it is in September. Who's going to be the problem, or not part of it, is like this is a very schematically challenging defense to be a part of because everything just rotates and the pressures and the blitzers. Can they pick that up quickly enough?
The one player I didn't mention, Alohi Gilman, the safety, the veteran they brought in. I did like that under the radar signing, but to Dan's point, safety is so important in this defense.
It's going to be like Peter Kohu or Jaden Kennedy, who they drafted in the 4th round out of Oregon. Not having McDuffie in that role, even an option in that role, is a big question mark. It's a huge part in this defense.
They've also got to be better on 3rd down. The Chiefs defense allowed their opponents to convert 44% on 3rd down last season. That was 29th in the NFL, the worst rate in Andy Reid's 13 years as a head coach.
Wow. Get to the quarterback.
That's not all from the Chiefs. In case you missed it, Travis Kelce having some fun over the weekend, attending a Cleveland Cavs playoff game with his fiancee Taylor Swift. Kelce on the Jumbotron chugging the beer courtside. Dan, I've seen you chug a few beers in your day. What do you think of the technique?
I would like to see the can flipped all totally upside down.
Oh, it was
Is it
not
empty
aggressive
there,
enough?
Trav? Like, is it empty?
I think he quit.
I see what you're saying.
Quit on the beer?
Yeah, I mean, there's
You got to prove it.
pretty solid stream there, and then he just tips it. So it's well done. It's well done. It's better than
The best part of all that was Taylor was like waving to the camera, and then it kind of pans up, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to take it over from here."
It's like
Fun
I would
times.
imagine you have to in that spot.
I think so.
You can't turn it down.
You know what? The next time Dan ends up on a Jumbotron, let's see what he does. I hope you have a beer handy. Okay, let's stay in the AFC West. The Chargers also opening up OTAs today in LA. Last season, they were tormented by injuries, right, on offense, hampering them down the stretch of the season. LA also brought in a new OC, Mike McDaniel, to join forces with Justin Herbert. I love this, Mina. How are you feeling about how this offense can look now with Mike McDaniel calling plays, that creativity, all the things he can do in the run game, and maybe a way to help the quarterback?
I don't know if there's a single unit in the NFL I'm more excited to see right now. Is that it? I don't want to overhype it, but like, oh
we
my
hype the
God!
Chargers like every year. It feels like at
But
times.
the marriage,
different.
Yeah.
I know. Well, health, who knows? Can't predict that. But the marriage of play caller and quarterback is a dream.
Really?
I mean, I think so. Let me explain why. Yeah. Justin Herbert, his star qualities: big arm, but quick processor. Ball comes out quick. And yet, despite that, last season on first read throws, charted by FTN, 32nd in explosive play rate. Ooh. I don't know if outside of Kyle Shanahan maybe there is a play caller in the NFL who is better at turning quick game into explosives, as we saw in Miami, than Mike McDaniel. And for Herbert, it just makes life so much easier. And the way that McDaniel does that, by the way, using motion, formation, different personnel groupings, I think is going to open up things with this Chargers offense. I love some of the signings they made with the tight ends and adding a fullback, getting heavier personnel on the field. I just think we could see the best of Justin Herbert because his qualities map on really well to a McDaniel offense.
Okay, so top 5 run game. I think it will be a top 5 run game. I think Herbert will have the best year of his career. He absolutely will be an MVP candidate. But let me couch that with saying one of them has to change, Justin or McDaniel. Because I would say this, because I agree with like the vantage point. McDaniel's quarterbacks, they are anticipation throwers. They see things before they happen. They like to layer the football. And if you look at their names, Tua, Jimmy G, Matt Ryan, Hoyer, Kirk Cousins, they're guys that are kind of very similar in skill set. Those are their styles. That's the style of quarterback, right? Now Justin is unlike any quarterback he's ever had. Big, powerful arm, drive the ball downfield. I would tell you he's not necessarily a layered type of thrower.
Yeah.
You know, he's a little bit more of a flat and firm ball guy. So the question I have is, like, which one is going to change? Because I do think one of them has to.
Should it be Mike McDaniel?
A little bit of both, I think. I think just because the run game's going to be so good, you want the play action passing attack to be part of the offense.
And I don't disagree. Like, you sit there and go, potential greatness.
Yeah. But when you think about, okay, like Herbert, to your point, is able to access parts of the field that a lot of those quarterbacks can't.
Totally. Or they did
outside
it
the numbers.
differently in a way, you know? It's like Mike had to script it so perfectly.
Yeah, 100%. I think about, like, this is not totally perfect comparison, but when Sean McVay got Matthew Stafford and suddenly he was like, oh, I can put my quarterback in empty. Oh, I can throw deep outside. There's going to be some natural evolution because those were the quarterbacks he was given, right? And so
now he's got a cyborg.
And those guys are good players. I don't want to minimize. Like they do some of those traits really, really, really well, and probably better than Justin.
Herbert also has athleticism though more than they do too. That's going to be another element.
I just want to see who kind of how they change together, because I agree if they change together in like the optimal way, Justin will be an MVP candidate, unquestionably.
Let's keep hyping him up. The Chargers open the season at home against the Cardinals and Raiders. Then they have a really tough 4-week stretch at the Bills, at the Seahawks, home against the Broncos, and then at the Chiefs. So maybe a couple weeks to get things figured out offensively, and then they go in a gauntlet. New on NFL Live, Lamar Jackson back at practice for the Ravens voluntary workouts after missing last week. So all is right there in Baltimore, okay? Showing up. Got new head coach Jesse Minter. More on the Ravens coming your way as we are just getting started. Reached an agreement today on an adjusted contract that guarantees his salary the next 2 seasons. Also includes a $9 million cash increase this year, $8 million cash increase next year per his agents Drew and Jason Rosenhaus. We've seen how important he is to that Texans offense. When he went down, you saw C.J. Stroud certainly suffer. Okay, let's go on trend. Some teams opening up OTAs today, starting with the defending Super Bowl champion Seahawks. They ran the ball at the highest rate in the NFL under OC Clint Kubiak last season, and Seattle was under center on 55% of plays, the second highest in the league. Mina, do you see that happening at the same level under new OC Brian Fleury?
Well, the fact that they took a running back in the first round suggests that running remains a priority. The funny thing about the Seahawks offense is despite the fact that they ran so much, they weren't actually good at it for most of the season. But because they did so and they put big bodies on the field, they were able to get the opposing defenses to put linebackers in the field, and that's how they got to a lot of their their explosive pass plays. I think that philosophy will remain. I think it's a large part of the reason why they went with Fleury. Whether it'll be as effective as it was last year with Kubiak, however, is an open question.
Something to watch. To Minnesota, where the quarterback competition is also something to watch. It's underway. J.J. McCarthy entering his 3rd season, competing with Kyler Murray for the starting job, and they'll try to elevate the offense to keep pace with that defense. The Vikings were 26th or worse in the league in scoring, QBR, and efficiency last season, while the defense was in the top 7 in each category. 10, which quarterback gives Minnesota a better chance of putting a stop to that trend?
Yeah, Kyler Murray, but I would say the word for both these guys is consistency, just different. One, does Kyler grow to consistently just trust this offense in the drop back game and not feel I'm the best athlete on the field, I got to go make plays? And then for J.J. McCarthy, he's just got to become more consistent and get rid of the egregious plays, the egregious misses, and get more pitches in his repertoire. Not everything has to be a 15-yard fastball thrown as hard as possible. An issue coming out of college that hopefully with an offseason he's corrected. If whoever does that better is going to have the leg up on this job.
A little change-up, a little curve, a little slider.
Yeah, not everything has to be 99 on the black.
All right, to L.A., who recently put a lot more money in the pocket of reigning MVP quarterback Matthew Stafford. The 38-year-old agreed to a 1-year extension through 2027 that could be worth up to $60 million following one of the best seasons in NFL history. His 46 touchdown passes in 2025 led the NFL and were 3rd most by a quarterback with fewer than 10 interceptions in a season all time. Mina, do you think an aging Stafford can repeat a season like his MVP season that we saw last year?
Yes, if his offensive line stays healthy. And that's the important qualifier here, which they did last year. You know, there's been a lot of attention about the skill group, paid to the skill group, especially after they took Ty Simpson. Well, that could have been a receiver. I actually think that will be fine. My bigger concern is if one of the offensive tackles gets hurt, then you look at the depth chart and you start to get worried. Speaking about Larry Jackson and Warren McClendon, both of who have been excellent for the Rams. But this is a quarterback who still, the arm talent's still there, everything is still there. Under pressure, however, and this is not surprising given his age, you do see the numbers drop off. And if that line were to suffer any injuries, then yeah, I'd be concerned. But of course, that is true of a lot of teams in the NFL when you talk about the offensive line.
This offense will be one of the best offenses in football this year, if all that stuff. I think there are two things that are really important for the Rams. One, they got to survive their early schedule. The early schedule is absolutely brutal. I think it's going to be this is coming off last year's schedule's tough.
Right.
I think it's going to be one of the hardest schedules anybody's played in the history of the NFL. I mean, it's playoff team after playoff team. So that's number one. And then how good the secondary plays with the two new additions, Jalen Watson and McDuffie. How good are those players actually? Because we've seen them have success in Kansas City. Really a different scheme, different style of coverage, a lot more middle field open, a lot more man, McDuffie in your face, pressure. I think if those two players pick up where they've left off at their highs in Kansas City, this defense will be significantly improved. But that schedule's, they've got to survive it.
You talk about the beginning of the season. I don't think they get JSN and the Seahawks,
so
who was a nightmare for them. Arguably a big part of the reason why they went out and added those two corners until the end of the season.
Do you think McDuffie goes inside, or do you think all over? Or
I know.
It's not necessarily their style.
It is not. I think against JSN, the Seahawks will put JSN outside, which they did most of the time last season, but particularly because they would rather have him against McDuffie, in particular, outside the numbers than from the slot. I think McDuffie is arguably the best slot corner in the NFL. Outside the numbers, he's still good, but I wouldn't put him in that same tier.
And then it's the age-old thing of does the coverage help the rush? Because I'll never forget Booger McFarland last year in the playoff run. Yeah. Booger kept talking about the Rams don't have a quick winner in the pass rush game. Everything it's bull rush and it's there. It's awesome. But that kind of hangs the secondary out a little bit time-wise. Can they hold on coverage-wise and allow the rush to get in?
Interesting. At Week 16, the first time they play the Seahawks, you keep mentioning that early season schedule. Just for a reminder, it's 49ers, Giants, Broncos, Eagles, Bills. Then they hit the Cardinals and Raiders. That's mid-October, though, actually to late October. So that's on NFL Live. New on the show here, the Panthers opening up OTAs today. Particularly great weather. Look at that. It's like the weather in Connecticut lately.
Don't bring it up. Don't bring it up.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, it's a sore subject. Panthers head coach Dave Canales, by the way, also met with the media after practice today. Talked about giving up play calling duties. Listen to this.
Sometimes I'm not sure what to do with my hands, and if I ever feel like that, I just kind of, beeline over to another group and try to add a little juice and a little bit of excitement with what they're doing. And I like that role, and I'm confident in our coordinators and the job that they've done organizing this offseason and crescendoing to this point where we get to be on the field and then just continuing to push the group.
Okay, so Carolina coming off winning the NFC South last season. Do you have any concerns for this offense going into year 3 with Canales? Canales was brought in to call plays. It's what he does well, and he's giving it up.
I do, and I have great respect for Coach Canales. I don't like the fact that you're giving up play calling. I think if you're hired because of your play calling, continue to be a play caller. Figure out the rest of the parts and maybe put more on other people. So that's number one. I think number two, I think Bryce Young's just under as much pressure as really any quarterback in the NFL. I mean, if you go back to that Rams playoff game, they win it, he probably gets a $150 million extension. But he doesn't, and they don't. And now all the chips are on the table for Dan Morgan, their general manager. I think it really comes down to the perimeter players. I think this is good offensive line. Not having Rico Dowdle gives me a little bit of pause, but it's really the perimeter players. Tet was great. Who takes a step forward? Jacob Coker's a nice player. Is he really going to be the reliable number 2? They drafted Brazel out of Tennessee. But I don't love the fact that, and I don't know why the wave of hey, let's just hire these people who have never called plays before. They're hiring Brad Idzik, who, to my knowledge, has never called plays. So, yeah, I have a lot of hesitation on it.
You pointed out to me it gives them a lever that they can pull midseason, these head coaches, if it's not going. Maybe that's a little
They take over. We've seen it.
I share a lot of your concerns. I do think when I look at this Panthers offense as a whole and look at the depth chart, I think the run game, which was fine last year, a little bit inconsistent, has the potential to be one of the better rushing attacks in the NFL. It starts with the offensive line. They were banged up last season. They didn't have Robert Hunt, who's their big money guard. Then you go out, you draft Monroe Freeling out of Georgia. Sam Hecht might play at the center. And when I look at this offensive line, I think this should be an under center, outside zone rushing attack, which they were already good at last year, by the way. They averaged 5.4 yards per carry out of outside zone, but they were primarily a shotgun running team. I think for Idzik, there needs to be a little bit of an evolution in the ground game to match the skills of his offensive line, because This is a young, athletic offensive line that should be one of the better run blocking position groups in the NFL.
I agree with the offensive line. The two running backs who are somewhat young players. Chuba's been in the NFL for a couple years now. They got to stay healthy. That's a big deal. And I would tell you one of their tight ends is going to have to get a lot better in the run game blocking.
Yeah,
you know, like they're nice players. Sanders was coming on. Tremble is a good player, but like he was coming on before injury last year. A little bit more of pass catchers than I would say like great run blockers. But if they can run the football, it's obviously a big deal. I think more under center for Bryce is only going to be better.
Yeah, another kind of interesting thing, they actually have the hardest home schedule in the NFC. Home games against the Bears, the Lions, the Broncos, Ravens, Bengals, and Seahawks outside the division.
They got the North and the
Quick
West.
note on the Panthers, by the way, they sponsored the spellers from North Carolina in the spelling bee. The Carolina Panthers
Love
sent a
that.
bunch of kids to the National
All
Spelling
the
Bee.
Carolina
So
kids? All the kids
I
from
think
Carolina?
so, yeah.
Good
They're
job,
if you
Carolina.
look at their
Great
bios,
job,
it says
Panthers.
sponsored by the Carolina Panthers.
By the way, you can only find out these things on NFL Live thanks to
I didn't
our
have that.
Times.
I didn't have that one.
New on NFL Live, Bills' new defensive coordinator Jim Leonard spoke to the media today about Buffalo's defensive personnel for his first year as DC.
That's the exciting part of the offseason. Like, I had a vision for what I want it to be, and it might not totally get there in year one, right? We have to be real as far as who we have, what their skill sets are, and I have to be flexible as well as them, right? And that's where that overload philosophy was. Like, let's push a lot of stuff at them and really stress them out mentally and schematically what we think we're going to be able to do, and then just start to dial it in as we get closer to week one.
Minas, what's going to be the most important thing for Leonard to fix in this Bills defense?
Well, first, it's cool to hear him talk about thinking about defense in terms of stressing out the offense, because when you watch his defenses going back to college, and then obviously he was part of that Broncos defense, I do think
We literally have the same points all the time.
I do think that is what he does, right? They throw so much at you in terms of disguise on the back end, up front. Yes, it's a switch to a 3-4, but it's going to be very multiple. I think the way that he gets to his pressures is going to be more simulated. Buffalo did this a decent amount, but there's going to be simulated pressures. There's going to be a lot of movement up front. So from a pressure perspective, I love it. Where I get a little concerned, and this is less about Jim Leonard and more about how bad they were last year at this particular thing, the run defense was abysmal last season. On first and second down, they averaged over 5 yards per carry given up.
Yeah.
Only teams worse were the Giants and the Bengals, never a sentence you want to be in. And also in the open field, so many missed tackles.
Missed tackles, yeah.
So for Leonard, I think that's part of the challenge here. Yes, that complexity I think is going to help them in pass defense, but how can you improve the run defense? It's 3-4. They need a true nose. I think some of the personnel might not quite be there just yet.
Do you think they go schematically complete 180 to really what they were under Sean? Because I agree, like Jim Leonard played under Rex Ryan. If you ask anybody in football, you say the words Rex Ryan, here comes pressure and here comes man.
Yeah.
Denver, Vance Joseph, pressure, man. It's not really who Buffalo, they sprinkled it, they dabbled it a little bit. It's not really who Buffalo was defensively under Sean McDermott and Bobby Babich. So you look at that, I mean, as a player, you're going, here comes pressure, and then as a coach, you're like, here comes pressure. Look at the bottom of the screen, 27th in the last 3 seasons. Now, they ticked it up a little bit over the last year, but I'd just be interested to see who they actually become scheme-wise.
The defensive linemen in Buffalo are so different from the ones in Denver, for example, in terms of like Denver, that was speed, right, at edge.
Long, athletic.
Greg Rousseau, even TJ Parker they drafted this year, power is more like those two I think are decent against the run. But I feel like he's going to have to make some adjustments. The way he defends the run is with aggression. You're seeing a lot of run stunts, slants, adding guys to the box, right? So he's going to have to figure out some answers. I mean, he's a brilliant mind, so well regarded around the league. This hire received, I think, more accolades than almost any this offseason, but they might still be up against it.
I think it's a welcome change, too. I do think there was a little bit of we're in zone all the time. We're in zone all the time. We got to get aggressive with our quarterback.
You showed that pass rush win rate. It was the lowest rate of any of the 9 seasons that we even have that stat. That's just how bad it was.
Last year for Buffalo.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Okay, how about this, you guys? Over the next year, the year of the Super Bowl at ESPN, we're telling the stories of players and the moment they achieved immortality on football's biggest stage by scoring a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Now, Steelers wide receiver Hines Ward was known for as much for his hard-nosed blocking as he was for catching touchdowns. Ward credits his success to his mother, who instilled a work ethic in him at a young age. And it comes as no surprise that the Super Bowl 40 MVP dedicates this touchdown to her. About what he wants to see from Caleb Williams in year 3, Barrett said, quote, "Do less." We don't have to work as hard for our money. Well, I like this. Okay, there's times where we would just work through our progression and get the ball out on time instead of having to create and extend plays. Late in some of those games, we were making some heroic plays, but it wasn't necessary if we execute in the first quarter and second quarter. You don't necessarily have to put the cape on and make those crazy plays because you already were killing them in the first 3 quarters. I added some of my own commentary in there, but you could read the code on the screen. Dan, do you like the idea of Caleb doing less this season?
I love it. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. That's kind of been my adage for Caleb. Remarkable talent, and when it's needed, it was awesome at times last year. But there's, to JT Barrett's point, there's times early in the games when it's just take a flat route, take a check down, throw the ball 4 yards down the field instead of waiting till the fourth quarter on 3rd and 15 and ripping a big time out route or making plays. So it's a fine line because he's a tremendous talent, but getting him to hit more singles is going to be much better for the long term of his career and the Bears' success.
Small ball. Let's go. All right. Well, we've had a lot of baseball on this show. To Nashville, where recently added wideout Wan'Dale Robinson spoke glowingly about his new quarterback, Cam Ward.
The arm talent, the ball jumps out of his hand, and whenever we're off the field, he's just like one of the other guys, and you want to play for a quarterback like that you can always hang out with outside of football and be cool with, and then whenever it's on the football field, it's all business. So love him to death.
All right, Mina, what's one thing you need to see from Ward and Tennessee's wideouts in year 2?
Ooh, just one is tough here after that last year. But I think just seeing the receivers reward Cam Ward more when he takes risks, throwing the ball downfield. Because last season there were way too many drops. Receivers unable to beat man coverage, press coverage as well. They completely revamped this group. I love the additions. I think Cam Ward throws a beautiful deep ball. He just needed someone to catch that. He's got that in Carnell Tate, so there's going to be room underneath for Wan'Dale Robinson to operate. Love this rebuild. I think it's going to be good for everyone.
I agree. All right, to Tampa Bay, where Bucs assistant coach Larry Foote spoke about his expectations for rookie pass rusher Ruben Bain.
Off the field, if he had to bet, he's going to be a star. He just, the way he plays the game, he's explosive, plays with great leverage, and it's hard to block those type of guys. Back in my Pittsburgh days, playing with the guys, James Harrison like that, it just couldn't block him. And he has that trait, he has that ability. I'm more impressed with his mindset. And I kind of got a little feel for that when we interviewed him at the Combine. But these last few weeks, he has that Lavonte David focus, that area down there in Miami. Them guys are just, it's Jesus 1A and football 1B. And them guys love ball. Even when it's break time, he ain't pulling his phone out like the rest of them. He's all about ball.
Dan, what do you make of the high praise? I couldn't really hear there. That's why I was doing that. What do you make of the high praise for Ruben Bain and Tampa?
We referenced Lavonte David.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
If Larry Foote's right, on paper, I think the Bucs are NFC Championship contenders. I really, really, really do.
Wow.
I think offensively, very good offensive line, very good skill players. Baker's the best quarterback in the division. They've invested into this defensive line. And I know they weren't great last year, and I know Vita Vea is a little bit older, but they have put money and picks into this defensive line. And if Ruben Bain is who a lot of people going into the draft thought he was, and obviously Tampa thought he was, then this defensive line should be reminiscent of the ones that we've become accustomed to in Tampa. Yaya Diaby in another year leading their team in sacks. Vita Vea hopefully healthy. Morrison staying healthy at the corner. I just really think this is a very talented top-to-bottom complete roster.
I think they have to do two things better than last season to go as far as you're talking about. One is they got to run the football better.
Sure.
And then the other was they have to get after the quarterback without blitzing. Because when they blitzed, they were 5th in pressure rate. When they didn't blitz, they were 28th.
But I would say, I think offensive line-wise, they have the capability. They just got to be healthy.
They had some injuries last season.
I agree,
and
getting
lack
to the
of
quarterback.
But, I mean, Bain, this was one of the best picks in the entire draft in terms of need and the player. And I just think this is already a very good run defense last year. That was not the problem, but he adds to that. He's a very good run defender. He's very complete. And I think just is going to open up opportunities for other people on that defensive line as well. I mean, he's a really unselfish pass rusher. He will eat up double teams himself. You can use him on stunts. Even if they are blitzing, I actually think he's a good component of that blitz. And I think he's really pro-ready. So for me, this defense to me seems very primed to improve. particularly if they can stay healthy in the back
Think
end.
about the investments into their defensive line, right? We know they have Vita Vea. They took Kalijah Cansey in the first round a couple years ago. He's got to stay healthy, hit his mark. They sign Ashawn Robinson. They've got Yaya Diaby. They obviously add Ruben Bain. They sign Alex Anzalone, who I think is a very good linebacker. This is a talented group. Like, it's a very talented football team.
It surprised me a little bit. Shaq Barrett in 2021 is the last Bucs player with at least 10 sacks in a season. We talk about how great their defense has been, but that's the last time
they've tried. They've tried to get that pass rusher. They haven't hit on it. If Ruben Bain is the guy that we saw in college, I'm telling you, this is going to be a really good football team.
What about Baker? No Mike Evans. The offense will look different in some ways.
Yeah, Zach Robinson comes over from Atlanta. We'll see what scheme-wise they do. I would hope it's very different than what we saw in Atlanta. No Mike's a big deal. I think they got really good tight ends. McMillan, if he stay healthy, is going to be that third piece. It'll be Egbuka, Chris Godwin, and then McMillan. Everyone knows Bucky Irving, I think, is a phenomenal football player. Mike is amazing, but they're plenty capable of being a top half offense at worst in the league.
Especially if they run the ball like they did a mere 2 years ago. Right? I mean, last season, again, injuries played a role in this.
They were decimated.
And when folks ask me about Baker and the inconsistency you saw in some of the turnover-worthy throws at the end of the season, I would argue a lot of that came from him feeling the pressure to do too much because they weren't able to run the ball
100%.
consistently. He is at his best when the run game is top 10. This can be a top 10 run game. There's nothing stopping it.
If Zach Robinson, because of his history with Sean McVay, I think brings a lot of what the Rams at least historically do on offense and brings it. It's similar to what Kevin Stefanski was doing with Baker. It's similar to what Dave Canales had done with Baker, similar to what Liam Cohen did with Baker. That's, I think, when Baker's at his best.
Feels like that's what they should do.
Yes. Yep.
Hello.
Hopefully.
Bucs. There you go. All right, we're going to go to another part of Florida.